Bullshit.
Pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe free of bullshit and full of bold solutions. That's what the No Bullshit Marketing Show is all about. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. 40% of college students don't know what a consulting firm does. And for those who do, 35% learned it from entertainment sources such as the Showtime series House of Lies. Now, being a fan of House of Lies and have enjoyed the first 3 seasons quite a bit, and now it's closed out after season 5. Don Cheadle's Marty Kahn plays the very confident, charismatic consultant, and the show itself had some good angles and covered a lot of different plots. So overall, good series. It was correct in some aspects about consulting, in that Kristen Bell was the lone female in their pod, their group of 4 consultants that would fly all over to try to save businesses. But it added to a misperception of what consulting is all about, because there's consulting of all sorts, and they were talking about management consulting, when it goes way beyond management consulting, when there is marketing consulting, PR consulting, messaging consulting, such as you saw what Kellyanne Conway did for the Trump campaign. There's financial consulting, business consulting, cultural messaging consulting, mission statement type consulting. The main takeaway is that it's about helping companies find solutions. And the reason that there's a bullshit perception of consulting is probably threefold or maybe even fourfold. The first is, yes, like any profession, there are bullshitters who have taken on as their life's work consulting. There are bullshit CFOs, bullshit CEOs, bullshit people that own restaurants, bullshit customer service people, bullshit marketers. Many people label consulting based on 1 or 2 people that they've met that are bullshit consultants, and so they look at consulting that way. Another piece of consulting is a misperception of consulting is people assume that they get paid to do really something that the company could have done themselves, which may or may not be true. So there's a misperception that consultants are high-priced and they get paid to do something that the company could have done. And then on the other side, the whole other end of the spectrum, I've been in companies where a consultant came in and immediately had instant credibility. They were maybe given too much credibility, maybe believed to be stronger than they actually were. So the misperceptions go both ways and go the whole way on each end of the spectrum, when the reality mostly and most often falls somewhere in between. When you bring in someone from the outside who has a certain level of expertise and you ask them to help you to find creative solutions, that is the epitome of quality consulting. If that person is able to prod an internal team to come to a solution that they may or may not have been able to come to on their own, that facilitation brings value, plus the outside perspective brings value. And many times, you can bring in an outside consultant or any type of firm to help you to get to things on your list that you just aren't going to get to internally because of the crisis of the day and the way things work inside of companies. I can tell you that part of the reason I had the passion to start Mass Solutions was how much value I gained and how my companies that I worked for gained tremendous value that positioned me as a change agent and positioned me as someone that could find solutions as a result of me knowing what type of outside firm could help for what particular problem. I believe there's an art and science to that, and knowing how to do that is of tremendous value. And when you see people have a strong career path and a career trajectory that continues to go up and up, and their market value goes up, many times it's because they understood how to bring in outside resources to know which ones were the right ones for the right job at the right time. So there's tremendous value in that. And I've found many times when I was coming up through the corporate ranks and really had a career that I enjoyed quite a bit, and it set me up to do mass solutions, I would find peers who would often negatively talk about me, sometimes to my face, sometimes behind my back, about saying how I brought in outside resources. And my point was, if I'm on budget and if my team is achieving its goals, do you care how we get there as long as it's ethical and moral? And the answer is no. No one should care how you get there if it's ethical and moral and it's on time and on budget and achieves the goals that are in the best interest of the organization. And I was able to do that by putting together teams of internal people that were built and retained and recruited, and external people. So knowing how to interview outside firms and knowing which jobs to put them on, and then turning them loose and being able to listen to them is an extreme talent that some people just don't have or don't realize that they need to nurture. So if you're someone that struggles with that or only wants to bring in a tactical outside firm, and some of our clients have this struggle. They work with us, but they're barely tapping the potential of what they could. And we've had these discussions with it. It's that they don't see that there's a value in creative problem solving and strategic solutions. And that word strategy is a bullshit word in the world today, because many people think they're strategic when they're more tactical. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being strong tactically. But people seem to be offended if you were to say you are really super strong tactically and you're pretty good strategically. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm strategic. I'm very strategic. And the answer is there's nothing wrong with maximizing who you are. And if you're strong tactically, then utilize outside firms to help with your strategy. That's really hard for people to admit, and that takes strong self-awareness, a high self-esteem to be able to admit that. And unfortunately, that's just part of the human condition, that both of those aren't as prevalent as they should be. And we all need to continually work on those. It's part of our personal growth. But knowing that you can bring in an outside firm for creative problem solving is huge. And so when you look at House of Lies, if they brought in Marty Kahn and his team, and they were able to help someone find a solution that was creative and could help move the needle, and it was something that maybe was thought of or even discussed internally, but no one pulled the trigger on, there's still tremendous value in that. So one of the things that I think about when I look at bullshit marketing is when people struggle to utilize outside firms to help with creative problem solving. And you need to really be open to that. And the strongest leaders, the ones that are having the most success, whether it's as an entrepreneur or whether it's as a corporate leader or whether it's at a medium-sized company, the strongest leaders are the ones that are able to figure out who the best people are for internal and external teams, and to know when to put them on what job, at what time, at what price, and then to listen to them and follow their expertise. So I go back to the original point, is that there's misperceptions of consulting, that it's high-priced, costly, and one guy that's actually a consultant joked that said, I'm the person that you ask me what time it is, I'll borrow your watch and then tell you. And I know he was poking fun, but the point is I don't really like that, because I think that is the bullshit. And I don't think that's how most people that work in consulting. And consulting really is something where a lot of people don't even like to use the word, but many people are doing consulting even if they don't think they are. If you have a PR firm, you're doing some consulting. If you have a advertising firm, you're still doing some consulting. If you have a marketing firm, if you have a management consulting firm, you're obviously consulting. So consulting is really about finding creative solutions to help your client achieve their goals and objectives. So there's a couple misperceptions, is that consultants don't really bring a lot of value. The other one is that they're highly expensive. And the third one is that maybe there's too much of a positive perception the other way. Oh, the consultant said the exact same thing that our internal person said, but it means more because the consultant said it. All three of those are BS, and the way around that is to focus on finding the right talent to mesh as a team, both internal and external, turning that talent loose so that they're able to maximize their skills, leverage their experience, leverage their expertise, and be able as a leader to parlay all of that into what's in the best interest of the organization. That's when you're able to be a no BS consultant and you're able to achieve no BS marketing. It's the No Bullshit Marketing Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich, brought to you by Audible.com. You can get your choice of 180,000 titles of books on Audible.com. You get your free trial at Audible.com/NoBS. That's Audible.com/NoBS for your free trial. Over 180,000 titles to choose from. Give it a shot. If you haven't already started using Audible, you'll find it to be really strong and helpful for you to be caught up on some books that you like while driving down the road or working out or whatever. Again, it's Audible.com/NoBS. We're talking today a little bit about, first we talked about no BS consulting and how 40% of college students don't know what a consulting firm does. And of the ones who do, 35% of it learned it from entertainment sources such as the Showtime series House of Lies. Talked a little bit about how House of Lies gets some of it right and some of it wrong, but really wanted to focus on how you, as a leader and as a professional, need to leverage both internal and external resources. And as a leader, you need to define who is the right person or the right team, right company to help your team achieve their goals, or even a step further, go back and have someone help define your goals. And whether it's an internal or an external resource, leverage their expertise and experience and have it all work together as a team. Your external resources are part of your team. They are not vendors. It's really important to know or to live that point. Your external resources are not vendors and they're not commodities. If you want to be among the elite, if you want to be a no BSer, if you want to be in that small percentage that pulls away from the competition, you will stop treating people that you work with like commodities. You will stop calling them vendors. They aren't. In this world we live in today, think about it. There are so many people that have moved to the consulting role or to the 1099 role. There's so many freelancers. There's so many different ways that you can get services done. If you continue to think of it as a vendor relationship, you're going to fall behind because there are companies out there that don't do that. There are companies out there that realize that it is a partner relationship, whether it's a freelancer, an outside firm, it's a partner relationship. Commodities are pretty much gone in the creative space and the problem-solving space. There absolutely are still commodities. If you're a hospital and you're buying your tomatoes for the dietary, for the cafeteria, and for the feeding of the patients, yes, I guess the tomatoes might be a commodity. But for the vast majority of creative problem solving, it's not about a commodity and it's not about vendors. It's got to be about partners. And so the big emphasis of today's show is that when you begin to think of them as partners and part of your team, you then define the role that outside resource is going to play. Leverage their experience, leverage their expertise, be willing to listen, to move out of your own comfort zone, and be